We are going to talk about a real man of God who is a real father, who is not guided by fear in his prayers, who doesn't drive his children out by speaking and confessing his fears, by fighting constantly with his wife to pull down what he thinks is strongholds with her desire to live a good, clean, normal life without having to be subject to things that are unnatural. A man who can see this and give her due respect, that he will never cross a line in force. A man who is a real husband has the power to be a real father. He has the power and the capacity to be able to be a real son of God. He has the power to be able to be a real pastor, because his first love is not himself. His first love is Jesus Christ and others. A good father will sit down and look at his child at ages 10, 12, 13, 15. And I could tell you the personality of the little girls. When I found out that they were like this, my mouth dropped open. I mean, I was shocked. In my day, there was no such thing. But in this day, it's real. And these little girls, they see somebody that's good looking. I remember my daughter introducing to the cousins in the family her intended spouse. And he was a very handsome young man. And as soon as they saw him, they were all on a set of stairs, and they were all lined up on a set of stairs. And when they saw them, they went, oh, every bit of them was just screaming that he was just so gorgeous. I thought that was so funny. But that's how girls act at that age, because they were all different ages. They were lined up, and they were all different ages. And she was older, and she was about 22 or whatever, and they were going to get married. And so she was letting her family know. And then I had we were owners of a campground, one of the owners of a campground. And I had, at 11 o'clock every Sunday, I had a Bible study. And in that Bible study, there were some 13-year-olds that they went and they saw a nice looking man or young man or kid. I don't know who it was because I didn't see it, but I know from what they were saying what it was. And when they saw him, I guess he waved or he tooted the horn, and they did all that screaming and gyrating. And he's so cute, and look at how he said hello to me, and look at what he did. And they all just jibber jabbered about this man that they knew nothing about. And they weren't even afraid. And I asked them if they knew who Bundy was, if they knew that he was a mass murderer, and that how girls had gotten into the car with him because to them he was so cute, and how he mutilated their bodies and just ripped them apart like a worse than a slaughterhouse. And they looked at me, shocked. I said, hasn't your mother and father ever sat down and talked to you about controlling these emotions, controlling how you think and feel, and taking complete control of your emotions so that nobody can cross that line? That the only person that can cross that line is your intended? And that you don't give it up easily, ever. I had the little 5-year-olds, and they would line up at the fountain to get a drink. And because they're little 4 and 5-year-olds, they don't know any better. They go and stand next to each other. Their bodies are rubbing on each other. They're just, oh, they're having fun. They're at the fountain. They're all going to get a drink. And I take them a little bit aside and I space them and I tell them, this is your body. Don't let anybody else push and shove on it. Don't let anybody else force themselves on your body. Teaching them how to have respect for their own little bodies and respect for the body of others. Is that what you teach your child at home? Is that how you teach them? Well, if they ask you, well, why should we care or respect? Well, because it's your body and how God made you special. And because he made you special, you don't want just everybody and anybody doing anything they want to your body. Now, nobody was touching them inappropriately. But even that, no matter how good it looked, was a line of respect that you need to teach your children never to cross. If you have little boys and little girls in the same family, you don't let them do things that you know could possibly, because you see little girls and little boys, they can't handle feelings that they may feel and not understand. And those, they can come into a situation because of your ignorance, your lack of understanding, your not caring, and feels things they should never feel because you allowed them. You know, when I see the abuse online, the way they have with babies and the things that they let twins do as an infant, they have no idea that affects the physical mind and body even as they grow older, and they have problems that they never would have had if you would have been able to teach them right. As a father, you stand there and you think it's so funny that your little girl or your little boy imitates you as you're talking to them, and they go and they talk and tell you off. That sticks in their mind. You may forget, but maybe 10 years later, that's still back there in their mind that they were able to tell daddy off because you gave them permission when they were little. I've said it before. When a child is a toddler, they can't even really walk and talk. Mine used to be in a little uh, uh, walker that you just fold open because we didn't have very much. And her little chin, she was so short, her little chin would push on it. And she would push and reach and touch everything. And one day she reached for the garbage. And all I said was no. And I didn't yell at her. I didn't scream. I said no. And she says, you know, uh, she went and reached again. So I just, no, that's it. When they're little, that's it. That's all it takes. Don't do that. No, no, no. Don't talk like that. But you encourage it. And you say, are you mad at mommy? Are you mad at daddy? And you let that child know. He's expressing himself. That's not the way you allow a child to express. You allow a child to express with respect and love. But you feed and nurture like the ignorant father that has a child that swears just as bad as he does. And you sit there, put your fingers, and listen, he's saying the 4-letter word. Can you imagine our little baby saying the 4-letter word? The 4-letter word, my goodness. And you're excited about it. What you're planting is unbelievable. From the time they're little, you teach them the little things that have life meaning. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. It's a life meaning. Some of those little ones grow up to be far smarter than their parents. I had one little girl that I mentored in high school. And when she came in and sat in my presence, she was beautiful. She says, everybody in this school thinks I'm just like my mother, and my mother's a prostitute. She says, but I don't let anybody touch me, and I'm not like that. And we had a long conversation, and in that conversation, I found out the wisdom this young lady had just by observing what not to do, with nobody to teach her except the hand of God. I thought, wow, she has so much more common sense than her own mother. You can teach a child common sense from the time they're little and cause their mind to think in the right way, to cause them to believe and know. If they want to know, well, why should I have to behave myself? Well, because I love you and I care about what happens to you. And I know in life you're going to have problems. Like I used to teach them. God made it so you have authority over you. That's your mommy and your daddy. But when your mommy and your daddy spoil you and let you have your way, so now they have a babysitter comes and the babysitter tries to tell you what to do and you stand there and defy them and say, you're not my mommy. I don't have to listen to you. I'm going to do what I want. And then when she reports it to the parents, they do nothing about it. So then the child goes to school. And there's an authoritative figure there, which is a teacher. And they look at the teacher and they say, you're not my mommy or my daddy. I'm not going to listen to you. Well, they get into trouble in school. They have problems with learning in school. And it's all you're doing. It's your lack of understanding as a father or a mother how to protect them. You didn't bother to take the time to teach them about life and what is going to happen to them if they don't do it with respect. You don't teach them that at all. I've got to stop this right now. So they have trouble in school because you haven't taught them the power of authority. You haven't sat them down and talked to them how God created all of life, that there will always be somebody you have to listen to and obey. There's always going to be an authority over you. If you live in a country, even a free one, you still have to obey the 10 Commandments of not killing, not stealing, not anything like that. So you teach them at an early age. There's certain things you just don't do. It's not right. And you ask God for wisdom on how to teach them. And you use that Bible to teach them. But most of you put your child, so you can have time for yourself, put your child in a Sunday school where all they do is play games, color, and maybe do a little short study, a Bible, cartoon, and that's it. You don't teach them anything. They don't know anything about life. And they're going to have to live in that life. And they're going to have to face problems, but you never, ever thought to teach them. Where I lived, we had a young man who was a policeman. And he didn't have a daughter yet. But he was very much upset about what was happening in the community. And so he called a little town meeting. And when he called that, probably about 20, 30 parents, and they all brought their children, and they were all different ages. And he played a tape of a filthy song with a catchy tune. And all the girls that were lined up in the back knew every word to that dirty song. And he was telling the parents, look at what you let your child learn. by not watching what they do and helping them in the right way. He was a Christian. And I forget his message, but it was very real. And it was very needed. Because parents at home, at that time, they were using school for a babysitter. You can't do that now. You use a school for a babysitter and you don't know what's going on. You might find your child mutilated, filled with hormones, with breasts cut off without your permission to change their gender. You can't do that anymore because the government wants control of them. Everybody is after the children. And if you were any kind of father, you would make sure your child doesn't belong to a school like that. I don't care what sacrifice you have to make in order to homeschool children. Do it. I don't care how many hours you have to spend. What else do you want to do? So while I work 8 hours a day, the least they can do is give me time by myself to just relax, prop up on my feet, and enjoy myself with a football game. Well, buddy, give it up. That child of yours is going to die because of you. The Bible says if you want to live a long life and see many good days, honor thy father and thy mother. But if you don't teach them how to honor the mother, and the mother doesn't teach them how to honor the father, they grow up wild in those certain things. Oh, they go to Sunday school. Oh, they read the Bible. Oh, they do all these things, but they still do not know what you should be teaching them. They have no idea, and it is your doing, your fault. It is something that you are going to have to change. It is something that you're not going to be able to go before God and say, well, I couldn't. I was so busy. Busy what? Oh, all day Sunday. Well, I did my duty. I went to church. Now I'm entitled to watch football all afternoon. Well, I did my duty all day working. I'm entitled to watch football all Monday night. I'm entitled to it. I earned it. Wow. Where is your love for your family? What if God would have said, well, I'm done. Lord, Father, I want down from here. I did my part. I'm coming down off of this cross. I'm done. I've done the best anybody can do. That's about all you can ask of me. So I'm done. He doesn't pay the price for your soul because he's done, just like you're done. I remember my daughter fell in love with a young man who was very rich. And everywhere you went, his mother, being a millionaires, owned all these businesses. And I remember her coming home crying, talking to her dad. She had cried. I can remember watching them sitting on the lawn where she just fell down in the grass and cried. And she had just found out that he was an alcoholic. All the signs were there. Since her dad was an alcoholic and he will be sober 50 years next year, she cried to him. And he said, all I can tell you is this. He is going to say this, this, and this. But I will tell you what he's going to do, because he's not going to mean a word he says. he's going to do this, this, and this. Well, of course, she didn't want that in her life, so she broke up with him because she knew what alcohol does. Do you sit down and talk to your daughter? I married an alcoholic because my dad never sat me down and said, you see this kind of man? This is the kind of heartache he's going to bring you. This is what's going to happen to you. Protect your emotions. Don't let your emotions feel anything. Oh, because he's good looking. Oh, because he's this or because he's that. Don't let yourself be attracted to such a person. Don't even go around it. Don't let your body and your mind be subject to it. Just don't let that happen. You can protect yourself. While you have it within your power to protect yourself, do it. That's how a real father talks to him. A real father will have the wisdom in prayer. I know of one young man that won a scholarship to go into college. Something happened to him. Okay. And the dad was real concerned. The boy was now hitting 18, and he was real concerned that his son was replacing one addiction that was wrong with another addiction like playing mindless games. And I said, you don't realize here the boy is. He worked very hard to keep his grades up. He's coming to the point of graduation. He needs a rest. Let him rest. Sometimes if the games are not bad for you, play them. It's, give your mind a rest. Do something that means nothing. I suggest even artwork. I mean, it's those things are different kinds of hobbies. Go out and play tennis. Go out and play anything. Go out and do something. Go down the neighborhood and see if you can find a horse that you could ride and learn how to ride. Do something that doesn't cause you to think on the wrong things. Help them find a hobby they would like, something they could do where they don't have to depend upon the things that are not good for them. That's a good father. That's a good mother to understand that. Boy, I'm having a hard time with this sun. It won't go away. Oh boy, that's okay. I don't care what it looks like. I'm not going to stop my message. It's Father's Day message. It's a call to all of you. Sit down and let your daughter or your son express to you how they think and feel. Don't be afraid that you might get upset. Don't let them be afraid that you might get upset. Handle it. You have God. You can handle what they say to you. I remember mine coming to me telling me about what a terrible mother she thought I was. Here I am doing the best I know how because I'm raising her alone, because I'm married to an alcoholic. But her perception of me was really opposite of what I was thinking I was. And she was highly intelligent. She knew. Maybe I'll get out of it this way. And so when she told me how she really felt, of course I cried. But what I said to her was this: I'm sorry that I am not the mother that you perceived I should be. I can only tell you I love you very much, and I did everything I thought I knew how to do. So please, please forgive me. And she cried because she knew I meant it with all my heart. And she had seen me suffer greatly in my life, and it hurt her to know she had to tell me anything. And we both got to be so tight that there were people who strove to destroy that relationship. A little selfish, nasty little girl tried to put a wedge between us with lies. But in the end, she had no idea how my daughter came to me and told me, Mother, of all the things I know in life, I'm positive you love me. And she didn't have that positiveness with anybody else. When you love your child and they're gifted, all they want you to do is believe in them that they can do it, encourage them. Like the one that won the scholarship. You have to believe in them that you're going to make it. I remember mine crying to me. She was a barrel racer. And she says, Daddy doesn't think I can do it. And I knew she was misunderstanding him. So I just told her, I believe you can. And she did, and she did it well. Encourage them in the things that are good. Nurture them in it. Sometimes when you're raising a child and they're younger and you're a dad, sometimes you have to look away as though you didn't see what they did. Otherwise, you'd be nothing but a corrector all the time. And you'd have to sit down at another time and talk to them about it. Wait until the time of Bible study or something where you could bring it out in such a way they won't know that you're pointing at that particular thing. Use wisdom, common sense. That's how you become a good mother and a father. Do you fail? Oh, yes, you do. At times, because you're a human being, yes, you do fail. Fathers and mothers, you do have problems in times. But before God, when you do the best you can, especially at an early age of 12 and 13, boy, I would sit down and get close to them and talk to them. You know, a child that has a father that they could hug, oh my goodness, that does so much for them. Where they can just go to their mother and hold on to them and hug them. That means so much. Words cannot express having someone that can love you like that. But if you never do it through their what you think is their awkward stage, how can you then suddenly do it when they grow older? Start now. Start now being kind, being generous, being understanding, being sweet, being good. Today is the day that you let God deliver you of your mistakes as a father.